Hi, I'm Dr. Bernard Starr. Just when we thought that Donald Trump's wall was history, columnist Bret Stephens wrote in a New York Times opinion piece on April 5, 2021, that President Biden should finish Trump's wall, or the next Trump will. This seems a strange reason for completing the wall. Stranger is Stephens' belief that the wall will be a barrier against sudden future surges of mass migration. This after he sadly noted that the 13 immigrants who died in a horrific car crash involved a Ford Expedition that was crammed with 25 immigrants. It drove through a breach in the border wall and later hit a tractor-trailer rig near San Diego. If the Ford Expedition, as Stephens noted, came through a breach in the wall, how will a longer wall deter other desperate migrants? His proposal makes no sense. Furthermore, history tells us that walls rarely, if ever, were a deterrent, even when the tools and methods of brief were crude and primitive compared to technologies that are available today. Let's look at some of the historical examples and the reason why some walls did work, but only because of an additional deterrent, as I explained in my article in Op-Ed News back in 2019, when the then-President Donald Trump was proposing a wall to span the entire southern border of the U.S. with Mexico. Here's what I wrote with some updated additions. According to the book of Joshua, in 1400 BCE, Joshua and his troops marched around the walls of Jericho along with 7 priests blowing ram's horns once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, they marched around the walls 7 times. Then blasts of the horns were followed by a shout from the entire army, and the walls came tumbling down. With no further resistance, the city was destroyed. Other sturdier walls have been breached even if they didn't come tumbling down. The Great Wall of China was begun in the 7th century BCE and eventually stretched 13,000 miles when it was completed more than 2,000 years later. Despite its formidable length and solid construction, it often proved ineffective. It was considered more of a scarecrow than a defense. Without the Chinese army in front or behind the wall ready to slaughter the enemy, the wall provided little protection. In addition to other failures, the Great Wall was breached several times by Genghis Khan, whose army was equipped with cruel tools by today's standards. However, the wall was effective in some instances because the Chinese were not worried about bad hombres drifting into their cities for refuge or work. They feared invading armies. Since armies advanced slowly, no highways, trains, cars, or planes, defenses could be mobilized at the area of attack along the wall. Who paid for the Great Wall of China? The various dynasties that built the wall would have liked the Mongol invaders to finance it. But alas, it was the taxpayers who footed the bill, just like Trump's wall. One commentator notes that the wall was so expensive that during the Qin dynasty, 221 to 227 BCE, quote, it crushed their economy, sparking a rebellion, end quote. And according to a popular legend, the Han Dynasty, 206 BCE to 220 CE, financed some of the staggering cost of the wall with a state-sponsored lottery. Another famous wall, the one surrounding Vatican City, was built in the 9th century by Pope Leo IV after Saracen pirates sacked St. Peter's. Despite the 39-foot fortification, several popes fled for fear that approaching enemies would easily breach the wall. In 1494, Pope Alexander VI escaped through a secret half-mile-long passageway when Charles VIII of France invaded Italy. In 1527, Pope Clement VII similarly absconded during the sack of Rome by Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. No, contrary to Donald Trump's tweet when he proposed the wall, walls don't work 100%. Nor, as he declared, is the Vatican encased by the mother of all walls. Today, there is no complete wall around Vatican City. Visitors can stroll down the Via della Conciliazione, which opens into St. Peter's Square. Donald Trump cited the wall around Barack Obama's home in Washington, D.C. as a rationale for his proposed 1,900-mile wall across the U.S. southern border. But Barack Obama's so-called wall around his home in Washington, D.C. is actually part gate, part wall. There is no forbidding wall around his home. In fact, Obama's fortification does not surround the entire property, and the quaint see-through gate in front of the house is similar to ones throughout the neighborhood. Nowhere to be found is the menacing 10-foot wall fabricated by Donald Trump. Like the walls around the homes of many celebrities, Obama's wall is less to fend off alien invasions and more to protect against invasions of privacy, crowds gawking, and paparazzi hoping to capture embarrassing photos. Even so, it provides only limited protection. For real protection, the Obama family has a Secret Service detail and a security booth in their driveway. What accounts for walls that have proven effective against incursions? 3 factors: relatively short lengths, which enable comprehensive surveillance of an area, multiple layers of obstruction, and the most essential factor, the use of lethal force against violators. Only 27 miles of the 96-mile Berlin Wall divided East and West Berlin. The initial wall was later fortified by incorporating a row of subsidiary walls. The main wall was 12 feet high. Trenches were added as well as electric fences, and an open death strip was overseen by armed guards in 302 watchtowers. The wall was also protected by 1 million landmines and 3,000 attack dogs, and guards were ordered to shoot anyone attempting to escape. The Israeli Gaza Wall is a combination of barbed wire fence and a 10-foot-high metal fence with electronic sensors that instantly report movement along the fence. The sensor tracking system is designed more to deter infiltration than to stop it, say the Israelis. The Gaza Wall has worked to a large degree. It significantly reduced the number of murderous terrorist attacks. Nevertheless, after the discovery of dozens of tunnels under the present wall, Israel is now building a concrete wall spanning the entire 40-mile border with the Gaza Strip. It will extend deep into the ground to discourage tunnel construction. How deep is top secret. And powerful sensors will be installed to detect tunnels that approach the wall. When all else fails, the Israeli military is prepared to respond to breaches with lethal force. If Donald Trump's wall is ever built to defend America against the national emergency of his imagined invasion of rapists and other criminals and terrorists, will lethal force be used when the wall alone fails to stop migrants seeking asylum? Trump gave his frightening answer when he said, quote, "If they have to, they're going to use lethal force. I've given the okay. If they have to. I hope they don't have to." End quote. If ancient and medieval walls were breached by crude tools and weaponry, what's the chance that a modern medieval-style wall will stand up against 21st century technology? To effectively police a 1,900-mile wall is virtually impossible. That's why the old technologies of ladders and tunnels will still let migrants outflank the wall. So might large trampolines. And how will the wall stop helicopters? In minutes, up and over, hello America! Add to that passenger drones that are now available. While Trump's medieval wall is at best a sad joke, it could, especially if completed, have a darker consequence that isn't funny at all. Could it invite terrorism? Terrorism against the wall with sophisticated 21st century weaponry to embarrass the United States and expose the utter folly of the wall. Let's hope Joe Biden stands firm and Trump's plan for a medieval wall comes tumbling down. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Bernard Starr.